Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is Francesco, your host, and you are listening to Vulnerability Weekly, the show where we analyze every week the major news headlines around vulnerabilities from the previous week and making sure that you are on top of the news, on top of the alerts that CISA and all the other agencies are sending out, or if not, you're aware of what's happening. So, this week, we had quite a bunch of vulnerabilities that were released by both CISA as a notification, and who doesn't know, CISA is a US government agency that has been recently formed to fundamentally notify the businesses and keep an eye on cybersecurity threats that could affect them and mandate, especially for government-related agencies, vulnerability needs to be fixed. In this particular instance, Zoho, that is a company that fundamentally does a lot of SaaS solution. In this particular case, CISA has alerted on two specific advisory, the Manage Engine Desktop and Desktop Central MSP, to be updated to the latest because they've been a recent discovered and heavily exploited vulnerability, CV 28219, that has been recently discovered. Following on, the vulnerability has been disclosed by Horizon 3 AI, another security research firm, and it is quite critical for the fact that these systems are traditionally exposable web. There are quite a number of them exposed to the web, and in general, this specific attack managed to bypass the authentication screens and get directly into the backend and steal credentials from other systems. So it is particularly critical because of accessing to sensitive data and credentials. You can read everything through our blog that is on www.appsecphoenix.com/security vulnerability of the week or vulnerability weekly. Now, another big impacting vulnerability this week has been Jenkins, that has released 0-day or an alert on more than 29 plugins that it hosts. Well, who doesn't know, Jenkins is a CI/CD pipeline system that enables you to structure and build systems and software and support plugins. Now, the plugin landscape is not necessarily responsibility of Jenkins. It's the plugin development tools, and you should treat those plugins as third-party supply chain and consistently monitor the quality and the quantity. Now, because they are easy to integrate and plug in, sometimes they can skip the eye of security researchers because they are in the CI/CD pipeline and not entirely visible. So it's an ongoing challenge that security researchers have. In this particular case, some of those plugins is a very long list, but some of those plugins are quite critical. And we've done a quick research on Shodan. For who doesn't know, Shodan is a company that scans the web for potential vulnerability malware that are exposed on the web. And we found of today, that is the 3rd of July that we recorded, more than 155,000 Jenkins servers exposed. And some of those are authentication bypass, or could be used for authentication bypass through remote code execution. So audit your Jenkins plugins list and see if there are any of the ones that we're going to explore in a second through our blog. From a server land, we saw the decommission of the recent Microsoft Internet Explorer, where a lot of organizations must have celebrated, specifically security researchers have celebrated that Internet Explorer has been decommissioned. Now, there's been a bit more attention on Microsoft Edge, and there have been 3 remote code execution from 7 to 8.3 critical vulnerabilities exposed. And CISA has, of course, mandated that those vulnerabilities will and needed to be fixed. Now, on the other side of Microsoft land, there have been an Exchange vulnerability heavily exploited in the wild. The original one was discovered in May by APPSEC team, and the vulnerability and the attack has been dubbed as session manager because attack and the vulnerability and the rootkit that it deploy is particularly virulent and enable an attacker to fundamentally manipulate files on the Exchange servers cross different domain and boundaries in the network, and do data manipulation as well as packet manipulation, as well as doing remote code execution. The vulnerability has been monitored and discovered through the evolution from the initial timeline in May through more recent. Now, one of the groups that is monitoring this vulnerability, specifically nation states, have been heavily targeted with this vulnerability. And the Dutch Institute for Vulnerability Disclosure, DIVD, have found roughly 46,000 servers exposed over the web with this vulnerability currently active. And the vulnerability is called proxy login law. So again, update your server, monitor the activity, and if they are web exposed, specifically dedicate a bit more attention to those systems. Now, to recap, as we said, Zoho has been particularly exposed with CV28219, that is enable the bypass of authentication and stealing of credential. The researcher from Horizon 3IA have disclosed the vulnerability in the code that led to that website exposure. Now, Jenkins has been, as I said, in the eye of a storm for doing something right, that is fundamentally raising the concern around this number of plugins that is not responsible, and we just did a query to identify how many shutdown server or server are fundamentally Jenkins server are fundamentally publicly accessible and reachable using shutdown. And as you can see, there are quite a number, especially in the northern hemisphere of countries, North America and Europe, with up to 155 Jenkins servers. And you can see here there is quite a long list of plugins that are specifically vulnerable to various ranges. And if you have one of them or more of them, the 29 in total, and we have the list here in the article from Jenkins to dive in and drill in with a security advisory. So please review this and identify if you have any of these, and if they are either updatable, not all of them are upgradable. If not, disable them if it doesn't impact, or at least shield and protect Jenkins from a direct access so that those plugins can be exploited and triggered. From an infrastructure perspective, as I mentioned, there are 3 CV linked to Microsoft Edge, 33, 638, 639, and 192, 3192 that are being found in the latest version of Microsoft Edge. Patches already available out there, and I've linked the Microsoft Security Advisory here as well. It's an RCE, is quite high in the level of criticality, and is in the list of CISA advice. Now, as we explored before, there have been quite heavily influenced and attack on proxy logon vulnerability, originally discovered by Kaspersky Lab and heavily followed by Kaspersky Lab. And of recently, more nation states actors have been discovered acting against those systems, specifically targeting nation state. And for this particular event, the Dutch Institute for Vulnerability Disclosure have been focusing on identifying which vulnerability was there and which Exchange server were exposed. And the session manager, that is fundamentally a package of vulnerabilities leveraged on the proxy login vulnerability, and the kit is heavily virulent, as I said, enabled to update and upload vulnerable files on the attack system, enabled to deploy remote code execution and connecting to other network collateral. Now, the vulnerability has been discovered back in the day in May, and of recent more exploited. Now, I hope this was useful. As always, if you have a request or if you notice any issue or you want to know more about this, please visit on www.appsecphoenix.com/vulnerabilityweekly or put the comments. The link are all in the comments with a brief explanation of where the various things are and links. But if you want to know more, if you like us, give us a thumbs up. We always appreciate support from the community on this. We do this for free, we do this for knowledge, and hence we and I really appreciate if you can leave a comment, a positive comment or negative comment if you like or dislike the videos, and a thumbs up if you particularly like, and subscribe to the channel to know more and to know every week the latest vulnerability. I hope this was useful. My name is Francesco, and this was Vulnerability Weekly, your weekly news for vulnerability happened last week and ongoing. Stay safe out there and upgrade your system. Bye.